Hi folks, hope all is well. Dino here on the Himi. Been a while since I've done any updates. If I'm honest with you, been busy. Um, but we did the Adventure Bike Rider Festival back in June at Ragley Hall 2025. Um, a good weekend. Good weekend to be fair. Didn't enjoy the trails as much as last time because we felt it was more of a enduro fest, to be honest. There was quite a lot of pressure from people hooning about, not very enjoyable. It's quite dusty, so we only did the trails once, but it was still good fun nevertheless. So yeah, still got the Himi. It's running really, really, really well. Big news really on the Himi is obviously if you've been following my updates, I've had a few mechanicals this year. Starting off with the big one was I had a stator failure, so the battery light came on. And when they investigated that a little bit further, the actual stator windings, so the stator is a thing that obviously makes electricity and charges your battery up. They had failed, so the battery wasn't charging. Um, so we put a new stator in it. To take the stator cover off, you also access the bottom, the cam chain and the cam chain sprockets and tensioners. So while we were on, it was 25,000 miles. I replaced the cam chain, uh, the top sprocket, and the chain guides, and so on. So that was kind of you know, a big job, to say the least. When I say a big job, compared to some jobs I've done on engines, it's actually quite simple. And it didn't break the bank. I think I got the estate when I bought the estate. I get the rotor and everything with it, the whole thing, and timing chain from India, Royal Enfield, India. I think it's about 120 quid. So I'm not gonna sniff at turn my nose up at that. Quite easy to do. Um, and then I had a problem with the roller rocker. So again, one of the videos later on, I had a really really noisy inlet rocker. And it turned out that it wasn't the needle roller bearings that had failed in the rocker. It was the actual shaft that the needle roller bearings basically float on had worn like a flat on it. So good job I detected that because that could have caused quite a lot of engine damage on the cam. 18 quid each for a pair of rockers from Hitchcock's. Again, not a big job. Top of the engine off, top of the rocker cover off. Again, I've got like one of my videos on the channel. Um, I had an ignition cable that snapped, so on the ignition, so I was doing a bit of off-roading. Next minute, the whole thing just went off, just like, oh dear, literally, died. Um, and we identified that as a broken ignition cable. And there is a very, very simple fix you can do if that happened. I literally just effectively put a jumper on the fuse box to basically put a permanent feed on the ignition supply, and away we went. So we just carried on with the day. Got back home, resoldered the cable back onto the ignition barrel. I think it was partially my fault because when I had the front end stripped down, I don't think I routed the ignition cables properly. So I think I've been trapped. So as I've been turning the bars, it's effectively been pinching the cable, and eventually it snapped. Few people online have also had similar failures, so something to think about. Maybe next time you get to electrics near the ignition, or you're doing your work on your headset or your front forks, just check that cable routing, make sure that the cables are nice and free, and I put a couple of tie ups on there to secure it. Like, so on the forks
We
front,
get a picture of that.
what we've done
Stay there,
is
stay there.
change the fork
Definitely.
oil. So the emulators are running really well, the YSS emulators. Um, and what I've done basically is drain the oil and put some 20 weight fork oil in with the emulators and readjusted the fork emulators for 2 turns. So that effectively is giving quite a lot of compression damping on the trail, but not too harsh. I think before I had the emulator set quite hard. So when I looked down at the wheel arch, the front fender, you couldn't actually see much of the front suspension doing any work. It was kind of pretty firm. So by backing off the emulators slightly, changing the fork coil, I like to change the fork coil anyway, every year. Um the front end now is absolutely spot on. I've got the Hitchcock's heavyweight springs in there, so they are they're not the standard springs. The Hitchcock, I think they're about £40 as well for the upgraded springs. Just slightly heavier. I don't know exactly by how much, but I know on the website they're just classed as a heavy duty spring. Now, in terms of engine, I run a foam filter. I like to use the foam filter, especially in the dusty conditions, because it's obviously easy to clean. I don't like running DNA or K&N because my honest opinion of them in the dust and the dirt, and you can see on just some of these videos, there's a lot of dust. Um, but basically, I don't like the fact that they don't filter particularly well. Certainly not in dusty conditions. All right for the road, but I think for dusty conditions, really, paper is ultimately the best, but it does clog up. So your next best thing is foam, oiled foam. Um, so I've running the foam air filter. I've got the tech cam, as in my previous videos. I've got an open pipe and a Lextech exhaust with a modified baffle in the back, just to a little bit of sort of like sound dampening in there because it is very loud. But the biggest change, I have fitted a Fuel X Pro. So there's no boost plug on this bike. I did run a booster plug, but felt it was over fueling. So I've run the bike for a couple of years, in fact a few years without any additional fuel, and it's on the stock ECU. But just before the ABR in May, I thought, right, let's go for the Fuel X. Let's see what all the fuss is about. And I have to admit, it really is the icing on the cake. With the cam, the exhaust, the modifications done, the bike, the fueling now mid range is a lot better. Yeah, it's not breakneck speed, but you notice the increase in torque. So sort of like the mid range. So when you're sort of like between 2 and 4,500 RPM, it feels a lot more firmer. The throttle response. I don't feel I have to flog the engine as much as I did before. It feels like it's naturally pulling. It's pulling in her sort of certainly the higher gears. Um, so yeah, Fuel X, bit of money, but with the modifications done, it's absolutely superb. So I can't recommend the Fuel X enough. The like I say, for the rest of the bike, I've had a few spokes I've had to replace. I've had a couple of rusty spokes, so when I've gone around the back wheel, I've just tinged the back wheel. It's been a couple of loose spokes, and I've gone to adjustment the says. I mean, I run this bike all year round, and I've had it nearly 6 years, and it's coming up to nearly 28,000 miles on the clock now. But it isn't using any oil, so the touch wood at the moment, the piston rings seem to be okay. Uh, I run the Fuel X Pro in Mode 7. So everybody online, quite a lot of people agree the same with the modifications with the air filter, particularly the cam. The Mode 7 is very good. And I haven't really noticed a significant increase in MPG. So still getting a relatively good turnaround in the miles per gallon. So yeah, so the Fuel X, big change on the engine front there. I think the chain's getting ready now for. I've got quite a bit of mileage on this chain. I'm going to go as far as to say I'm probably approaching 20,000 miles. It's an X-ring chain, and in fact, there's a couple of like dead links on there. But hand in hand, hand on heart, I jump on it still and absolutely love riding the thing. Miles and miles of smiles, and yeah, a couple of mechanicals. You think people could say, yeah, well, changing having to rock a failure at 25,000 miles is a concern. That is a concern, really, on this engine. So there are a couple of weaknesses on there, particularly, like I say, state of failures. I mean, that's could be common on any bike, really. You get state of failures on motorcycles. Um, but yeah, easy enough to fix. Um, Parts are plentiful. Do I still think it's a fantastic little bike? I really do. Yeah, it's comfortable. I can thrash it around more so now with the mods done. Can blast around the V roads. I'm running the the Pirelli MT21 Rallycross tyres front and back, quite knobbly. Once they've worn in a little bit, they handle very well, particularly on the road, and obviously fantastic in the dirt, gravel, all conditions really. So yeah, so she's still running really well, and just keep greasing the headset. I put grease up in the headset, quick servicing the thing, religious oil changes, check the wheel bearings. I've had a few wheel bearing failures on this throughout since the time I've had it, but they seem to be settling down now, and I don't know if that's because of the terrain that I ride on, because I do ride a lot of rocky terrain. But yeah, the major improvements in this front end, the YSS fork emulators, 20 weight oil, slightly heavier springs. I mean, I am a big guy, I'm pushing 17 plus stone, Hagen shock on the back, and the Fuel X, perfect. It really is a simple little bike to run. Probably, what would I sell this bike? Nah, I won't sell the bike. Is it as good as a Honda or a KTM? Probably in terms of engineering, probably not. However, in terms of simplicity and value for money, I think it's very good. Yeah, I think it's up there. Very, very easy to fix to the home mechanic as well, and super comfortable, and surprisingly good on the trails as well. So, okay, guys. Well, I think that's pretty much me rounded up now. Just on the Himi, I thought it's been a while since I've done a video log on the bike. Still got it, still love it. Um, what's next? Just keep running the thing, really. I think hopefully the next major job, well, the engine should be doing right now for another 20, 30,000 miles. But I am thinking in the back of my head, for longevity, piston rings, maybe a big ball kit. Now I've got the Fuel X, a big bore kit, be easy, it's just the fueling. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm just going to enjoy it as it is. It's set up absolutely perfect. So yeah. So thanks for following me on my channel, and yeah, on safe riding, everybody, and yeah, just do what you do, stay safe, and take it easy.